Hello YouTube, this is volume 1 of 2019 catalog. So as you see here, this was the new truck in the beginning of the, let's say the first half of the year of 2019 that came out. This was their new truck at that time. Hope you can all see that. I know people prefer the ones that carry trailers, but I don't see too many on YouTube with this setup of the semis that they sell. When generally I think these are generally longer than the most of them in from wheelbase to length. Here's what was available. Hope you can see all that. Here was the here's a body part set and the hop-ups. Who knows if, I don't know if any of these were new at that year or in that year. And I think the comical started coming out. I could be wrong. I think they may have had them out the year before, the end of last year, 2018 of this one. Comical Hornet. This car, I have seen someone actually bought this reissue or re-release of this car. When this came out, I thought this was really a beautiful job that they did. I love the paint job and the setup, the color of this Mustang at that time. Someone told me it'd probably be $100 paint job with putting all that decals on and all that painting for this car. I hope that wasn't true if I would have gotten it. This was the first Rally Edition front-wheel drive MO5 chassis I ever saw that came out. They used the Citron with different tires on it and different color on the box, as well as some option items that came with it. This was the first MO5 Rally version that I think I saw. And they had the red lunchbox out that year, the limited edition one. And then they had the Toyota Mountain Rider, which is a bit different, I think. I could be wrong. I think the tires might be slightly different than they were on the Bruiser, but I could be wrong about that. But the color was definitely different. And then you had the Pro Mark Mercedes, Zach Speed, AMG C-Class. Basically, this could have been just a red-bodied Bruiser. The Dynahead came out that year. It was their first vehicle that came with their portal axles, 1/18 scale 6-wheel drive. If they're familiar with the other cars on this chassis, they don't have this particular setup. And then the MO7R came out, which was the front-wheel drive of the M chassis. And now they're on the MO8, which is the rear-wheel drive chassis of it. And then they reissued or came out with this one. They had, I think, a couple of years or a year before that, they had the Terrell model with a different, it could be a couple of years ago, I forgot, that had a different decal sheet for it, and I think it was slightly different colored than the one that was before that they redid. And of course, I've seen a lot of people who I've known who have this one and had that one. That was the first time they had the Gazoo Racing TSO 50 hybrid. They stopped racing it last year, I think, in Le Mans. It's too bad. They should have made this like a Formula One chassis with four-wheel drive, because technically this car, when it accelerates, is all-wheel drive. That's why it won so many times during Le Mans. Besides, it was a hybrid. And then you have the Plasma Edge here, Edge 2. I think this was a regular one where it had a clear body. I don't think this came with the blue body. Even though they have a gray edition one, a gray gunmetal one edition, which I would have liked over this one. And here are the cars still that were available on the same TTO2 buggy chassis at that time. They did make a Neon Fighter buggy with the green metallic body that year. I think the MF01X was new on that chassis that year. And there are the DT03 chassis that were also available, which was also a classic black edition on top of the green edition. Personally, I'd get the black one before I got the green one. And they had the black metallic Midnight Pumpkin special at that time, which I would prefer over the original. And here are the G0601s. I don't know why they. There was a limited edition painted body version of the G06 bus, as it seems. It had a painted yellow body instead of you painting it yourself. And then you have the Dark Impact. I haven't seen many people who've run this car on their channels. I wish I'd see more of these being run, of the DN01 chassis. This was available of the XV. And then they had an XV01 TC Pro chassis edition. So it didn't come with a body. You could have picked any other body, and it had more TRF parts on it, it looks like, than the originals. And of course, they still seem to be making the four-wheel drive, 3-speed transmission, full-time four-wheel drive pickup trucks. I've seen in all the issues I have, and it still seems like they still make the CR01s. Of course, they still make the CC02s, but some of the models I think have been dropped, like the FJs, all the FJ versions, and the Land Cruiser. They did have a Toyota Hilux Extra Cab that was in the new body of the old Hiluxes. They did in the Bruiser, but they did it on the CC01 with the new body of the Hilux at that time, with the Bruiser paint job on it and sticker set or decal set. So there was a Bruiser version sort of setup painted of that one. I would have gotten it because I never had the Bruiser, and it would have been the closest thing, and it's cheaper than that original Bruiser. They have this body out with different kit on it, with the tracks that they just came out with for this year. They're coming out with a tracks, like a tank tracks on all four wheels for this model now on the TTO2T something, I think. And look, there is the original Bruiser. And there is the new one, the CC01 version of it. There was a time last year that the Bruisers, they're usually over $1,000. Last year, they had them going for $500 you could have bought directly from Tamiya or Tamiya. And here are the tanks at the time. And here's the TT02 chassis that were available at that time with certain body kits. And the drift models. And the regular touring car models. The TA07 Pro chassis. And the TB05 Pro chassis, which they have a new one that it's coming out this year. The R version of this, which is probably more fully loaded than the Pro chassis. And then the Bagheera Fat Fox came out for the 14 scale racing European semi-trucks. Body came out. And here's the M07 concept chassis. And they're the M05s. They're still making the M05s as far as I know, even though they're going along with the M07s and the M08s. And the M06s are still around. I don't know if the Dual Rider was out yet when they still continued to make this. The Dual Rider is definitely the better body over the Dancing Rider of that vehicle. And the M06 chassis, Midnight Pumpkin Lowrider edition of that. And here are the buggies that were out at the time. I still think they have the Grasshopper 2 original still out because I still see that I can buy it. Even though I would prefer the new black edition that's coming out the first quarter of this year, which has different suspension setup and 4 CVA shocks all the way around. And here are the tune-ups for them. For the TT02B, the DT03 setups, hop-ups, and the other optional parts for the TT02. A lot of these are TRF parts that are available for it. The hop-up parts for the TT01, the M07 hop-ups that you can add more to whatever you get, the M06 and M05 hop-ups, and the T07 optional parts. This was a new chassis, I think, at that time, too, unless it came out the year before at the end. And here's their list of stuff you can buy that are extra and the numbers of the kits on the back. And this is the back cover. So that is it. Might be another 2 weeks before I go into volume 2 of that year, of 2019. Goodbye, everybody.